Well, I've been following some of the arguments of many today, and I knew that I would get in trouble if I took up for people who oppose a very simple world of confrontation on the matter of, shall we say, morality. Um, I think morality should be based on the recognition of the human condition and how can we make the most of it, not on opportunism and who is willing to hate more than some other group. And that's where things are headed now with great confidence, great self-confidence. It's almost like the Crusades or something. A few years ago, wave after wave of crusaders had to exonerate themselves from charges of having insufficient zeal or something. And that has continued. People who cannot do better will try to get ahead in the world by promoting hate. And when they go against anthropological evidence of sorts, then they sometimes simplify the way people are kept in their own lanes in terms of what they're doing. You know, in the old days, there was traffic in some congested areas, and even back then they had rules of the road. Since then, we have far more traffic than we ought to have by any reasonable definition of how it's conducted. But one result is that we have to stay in our lanes when we're not passing or merging or this or that or the other. And it is that way with belief systems of all kinds. And it's as if people have said, well, we're going to do certain things with renewed gusto, even though it might not be appropriate to do the same way things are done in Rome if you're many, many miles away. And there are. All of Southeast Asia, for example, or Japan, or what, any number of places. And of course, nobody knows that better than the sophisticates in any society. Rome or England or Australia. There are elites that are truly global. There are citizens who are truly citizens of the world, and they do not easily mix with people so provincial that what sticks out isn't very admirable. It's the tip of a poisoned arrow, or they're wagging their tongues, or what. What sticks out for some people who have been around the world or been around the block or whatever is the hatred that motivates some people. And sometimes because parents love their kids, they let them live their own lives as best as possible. And in so doing, they say, in effect, that they're not going to try to protect their grown adult offspring, which leaves them among themselves to say, you know, they're killing our children. And parents look to one another and say, yep, they are. And without a war. You know, they're not falling on hand grenades, they're not throwing hand grenades. And I saw something almost amusing. They were talking about, I won't say what nation, but there's a nation that is thinking that if they rev up the APCs, you remember the old APCs? If they rev up the APCs with 700 horsepower and make them out of aluminum, then they can be landed on the moon without much trouble. And what are they going to do? Can you imagine self-contained oxygen and fuel and 700 horsepower, aluminum and heavy-duty high excursion tractor treads on the moon? And then they say, oh, and by the way, they'll work on Mother Earth too. So that's the way some people can communicate, but that's not really the hegemony that's at stake with, orbital mechanics, quantum mechanics, or much else. But that's the way it is. People are now communicating on channels almost like hip-hop below the radar or smack dab in the radar, leaving a lot of people clueless. By that I mean leaving people behind and not knowing that they're way behind. Or lapping the field and finding people who think they're well ahead and one thing or another. But really today, my feeling is, there are some interference patterns between belief systems, and that's about like a roundabout in some part of the world where they still exist, despite second thoughts. One requires a certain kind of skill in a roundabout. And some parts of the world, they have just assigned more police or traffic people there to help people who get confused. Other parts of the world have simply retired that form of distribution of sorts. But we have sort of the same thing in terms of circular reasoning, which is not a precise fit, but it's somewhat simpler. People get into some sort of a circular pattern of thinking that leaves them totally confused, and sometimes many people hurting that progress might eliminate. Some people think that, if we don't have red-blooded people ready to kill each other the way they ordinarily do, then, the health of the country is measured and estimated to be very poor. Well, some of the people leading the resurgence of all that ought to visit their own area with a renewed attention span to some of the ramifications. They need to wonder just exactly where the Sistine Chapel came from, with its decorations and statuary throughout the area too. I mentioned the other day, or in a different video, there are people on ice, pretty thick ice too, sturdy and safe. There are people on ice that are showmen, and showmen have their partners, and they can skate along and at the same time toss each other around, whether you're legally blind or not. And no one would want to say goodbye to them in favor of what? The ovens or what? I'll tell you, I can't get a good bagel here in Alex City. Maybe I'll find one someday, but I'm not really looking for one because I'm scheduled to live on $2 a day soon, and so I'm not looking for any new appetites. On that regimen, ended up hospitalized with some sort of a metabolic disorder that was weakening my skeletal muscles and putting me in a wheelchair. And after hospitalization to try to detox, uh, they put me in rehab for another 3 weeks. And as it is, I can only hobble around in this room. Uh, but I have on order one of those things, walkers that have a little seat to sit in or on, so I can maybe go further afield. But it has to do with too many medicines and not enough common sense and a rotten diet that I could not supplement on $2 a day. Prior to that, I could supplement the stuff given to me, and meanwhile, the unregulated uh, elder care routines in the U.S. have fallen prey to the wrong kind of private enterprise. When, the regulators are captive by those they are supposed to regulate. We wouldn't allow that in terms of the FCC. Uh, I mean, not the FCC, but we wouldn't allow that in terms of the FAA because we want our planes to be safe. It's not the same with the regulators of caregivers. That's the name of them, caregivers. But Dr. Wall there at St. Vincent's, Wall, Dr. Wall at St. Vincent's in Birmingham, spelled it out for me and told me who was to blame. He also said there's nothing he could do about it. That it was not a mystery to people like him. He's been head of the ER there for some time. So pay attention on the news, to the news, and I found out that there's one circus after another. And maybe it just takes time for people to recover their wits in terms of the fact that an economy is like an airplane. You have to have a pilot, you have to have people maintaining the plane, one thing or another, to keep it going. That economy is the same way. It can't be put on autopilot. The ones who put it on autopilot are the ones that form an opposition to what people really need. I need now to stop this recording and try for some relief right here in the room without talking about hot buttons or anything of the sort.